Hey everyone, this is Nugget. Today, Nugget is starting a peaceful world, and I am going to be reading some wholesome Reddit stories while we explore. The plan is just to wander around, gather up some essential resources, and eventually track down a nice deep cave to start mining for diamonds. Here is our first story today. Its title is I genuinely love being kind to people. I work in fast food, which isn't where I want to be, but I love interacting with customers and serving their food. I'm actually kitchen staff, because this is the first job I ever had and I used to think I was an introvert. But they started moving me around to front of house and I found out that I'm not an introvert at all. I love running orders out to people and being nice to them and making their day just a little brighter. In drinks, I write little messages or leave little doodles on the cup lids. If I can see their car pass by, I might draw a picture of the pet they have with them, or I'll leave a compliment about their car if it's been customized. One time a Jeep passed through and I drew a duck on their lid. Sometimes people make orders under fake names, and today I got Wonder Woman. So I went out and acknowledged the woman as such, and she and the man with her both laughed and it felt great. We also have this regular who no one likes because anytime his order is slightly wrong, he calls the store and just lays in to whoever answers. So whenever we see his name pop up, everyone groans. I used to be part of this when I just worked in the kitchen and made his food, but one time I was running and I asked if I could run it because I wanted to see what he looked like. This guy is just a sweet old man who has his good and bad days, and anytime I've taken his order out to him, he's been nice to me. Now, even when I'm not running and just scheduled for the kitchen, I ask if I can run his order out to him, and no one objects, because literally no one else likes him but me. He hasn't yelled at me yet, but I also haven't messed up his order yet either. He only comes close to when we close, so if I had to guess, maybe he is just getting off work as well, and I'm sure it would be frustrating to have your order messed up that late after a long day at work. The other day, I gave him his food and stuck to my usual script of, "Can I get you anything else?" And he started to open his bag with, "I hope not. Yesterday you guys forgot my marinara sauce." And I wasn't expecting a conversation because people usually don't talk to me outside of a thank you. So I went, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that," and he nodded and went, "I'm sorry to have paid for it. You have a nice night." I think he just needs his order made right, and for someone to be nice to him, since he is usually pretty nice to me right back. I'm not staying in fast food forever, but I know that whatever I do in the future, I want to be involved in the community and get to know everyone. I used to think I wanted to work in a graveyard, because it was lonely and quiet, but now I think that would be hell for me. I don't like being isolated anymore. I've even fantasized about having a food truck, just for our homeless population in my city, but I don't know how well that would actually work, because it would need to run either off donations or my own money. But we do have a whole homeless camp/community that lives down in a ditch under a bridge in my city, and there is a food donation box for them that someone else built, but it's not big enough to feed everyone down here. Whatever I do with my future, I want to help people and interact with my community. And to think I used to believe I was an introvert that hated people. Looking back, I definitely was just angsty because people used to be impatient and mean to me. To me, ladies and gentlemen, the OP seems to be quite young and full of energy. And honestly, being a lot more cynical person myself, I was thinking about the only thing while reading this story. I really want to wish the OP to remain so positive and energetic about humanity and the world in general, and keep bringing joy and kindness to everyone around them. This is just the only wish. And we are moving to the next story, which is my fiancé is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I just need someone to tell they doesn't sound bright, repetitive, or a "duh, I know." He's always been great, even through our downs, and I've never doubted that he was the one for me. We've been together 4 years and got engaged almost 2 months ago now. And life has been great overall. I know my life is better for having him in it, and I'm so thrilled to spend the rest of my life with him. However, as amazing as he always is, this is about this past week specifically, especially tonight. On Tuesday, I got a semi-large surgery, gastric sleeve and liver biopsy, which was only my second ever surgery. This actually stemmed from my first surgery, which was an emergency gallbladder removal, and he was great during that. But this is much larger, I am on many more restrictions and in significantly more pain. I refused to let him take off work as I live with my parents, and they already each took 2 days off to watch over me. We are also paying for a wedding, we need the money. When I woke up from the surgery, my parents were there and then switched off with him and my best friend. He was the last one to leave the hospital room after tucking me in and kissing me. He's also come over after work almost every day to lay in bed with me and keep me company. Tonight, his family had a barbecue for celebrating his sister's graduation. Everyone assured me that I did not have to come, as they know how hard the procedure is due to an immediate family member having the same one. However, after being in bed since Tuesday, I asked my fiancé to take me. I'm not allowed to drive yet. I stayed for about 9 hours, made my own food to fit what I'm supposed to eat, and went between sitting and standing while mingling with family. I did too much and pushed myself way too hard. Not wanting to cut his night short, I sucked it up as he was taking me home soon anyway. His dad told him to check on me as I was limping due to pain, but inside the house while he was outside, and suggested taking me home. He immediately declared that we were leaving, said my goodbyes and left. I told him he might need to help me walk to the car. He held my hand and had me lean on him to get to the car. On our way home, I said I had a few favors to ask of him before he went home. He asked me what they were, and he made a joking snarky comment, and then said of course. Once we got home, he helped me upstairs, made my bed while I used the bathroom, helped me get undressed, applied a lidocaine patch, helped me gather my meds and water, helped me get into bed and tucked me in. I hugged him so tight, from my bed lol, and thanked him a million times, including the same amount of I love yous. He responded by saying he did the bare minimum. I am so lucky to have this man, and I cannot wait for the rest of our lives together. I would jump in front of a train for him, and he would probably do the same. Sometimes I lay in bed and wonder how I got so lucky, but we both deserve this kind of love. I hope everyone finds or has a love like this one. And if you don't yet, just know you deserve it and you will. This is actually what a real man has to be about. Acknowledging this responsibility for your significant one and being there all the time, doing this bare minimum. I wanted to say when it's necessary first, but when you are in a relationship, this really means all the time. And actually every man who wants a stable relationship with a loving and caring partner has to embrace it. Prove me wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Our next one is brought by the user AnnaAnnie454, and the title is I realized today that I made a difference in someone's life. I generally try to be a nice person and make people's days better when I can. I think everyone can benefit from random kindness, as you never know what someone is going through or if they are having a bad day. I had my last day at a cafe I am a barista at, and one of my regulars who I love serving unexpectedly gave me a card and a small gift as a going-away gift. Part of the card read, "You always made me feel special." Like I said, I loved serving this regular. I tried to make sure I made her drink, so I could make sure she was getting good quality, and I would always hand-deliver it to her instead of having her come up to the counter. Purely because she was such a sweet woman. Some people just have that demeanor, if you know what I mean. And she would be reading her book after ordering, so why would I want her to have to stop and get up to grab a drink? I had no idea it actually made a difference in her day, and I've never had someone say something that has hit so deeply with her as that sentence. I never realized I may actually make a difference in anyone's life, beyond the given of my immediate family or significant others. And honestly, it's making me extremely emotional, and I don't know what to do with these feelings, so I'm making this post. Yeah, such small things do actually make a difference and turn just people into loyal people, and particularly customers as well. And we move to the next relationship story, which is titled Caught My Wife Watching My Favorite Childhood Cartoon. Thought I'd share something wholesome to boost any bad day someone might be having. To start, anyone who knows me knows I am a huge Spider-Man fan, My earliest introduction to Spider-Man was my mom taking me as an infant to the 2002 Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, and contrary to babies in theaters, I was quiet and glued to the screen according to her. Last year, my wife, 23 female, while she had free time, was in our living room watching the spectacular Spider-Man on Disney+. Still hates that they removed it, lol. And she was on the last episode of the second season. I come home from work and I hear the theme song echo through the house, and suddenly I'm 10 years old again, sitting on the floor, eyes glued to the screen, with nothing but stale chips and Hawaiian punch, without a care in the world. I tell her, hey, I loved that show when I was a kid. A shame it only had 2 seasons. Her face dropped, realizing that she was on the last episode of the second season. She goes, no, there is no way it's over. I didn't even realize there was only 2 seasons. I laugh because she said what every other spectacular SM fan felt when we got hit with the news, lol. She wraps up the show and we mutually complain about the cancellation. I am now returning the favor by watching one of her favorite shows, Gossip Girl, and I'm enjoying it so far, and I feel like it was so sweet of her to go back to my childhood just to further understand my interests. I love this woman and I will continue to love her forever. So the next story is by the user Sir Fatty McGee, entitled, I was kind to her daughter and she remembered it 16 years later. I work as a server in a sushi restaurant, and lately I've been a little burned out and had many long tiring shifts, to the point of feeling very depressed. But yesterday, I got a glimpse of the beautiful and pure parts of this job, which honestly rekindled my spark at work. A little backstory. I am Lithuanian, and I live in Iceland. And when I was around 8 to 10 years old, my mom was a nanny and often had babies over that she was babysitting. And I played with them a lot. There was one which was around 1 to 2 years old. She was really nice and had this goofy nickname for me because she couldn't speak well enough to say my real name. And yesterday at work, I bring food to a table where there is an older woman and her teenage daughter, probably in the range of around 16 to 19. Once I set the food down, the woman probably doesn't speak Icelandic well and says in Lithuanian to her daughter, ask him for wasabi. I instantly pick up on the Lithuanian and say, of course, I will bring it right over in Lithuanian. They instantly smile and light up in a, oh, he understood and is Lithuanian too kind of vibe. I bring it and say, here is your wasabi, enjoy. And they say, thank you so much, all in Lithuanian with bright smiles. For the next hour or so while they eat, I bring food to many tables and often notice them looking at me, especially the woman. At one point I'm working, and the woman comes up to me and says in Lithuanian, I'm so sorry for bothering you, but I couldn't help but notice. Are you perhaps the goofy nickname? And I'm in shock. I say, yes I am. Her, do you recognize me? Me, not really. Her, maybe you remember my daughter, says daughter's name. Me, oh my god, no way, yes, I remember. Oh my god, this can't be. During this, the daughter is awkwardly standing by the sushi, smiling with her hands in her pockets, probably because she was so young that she does not remember me. Then I remember I'm in the middle of work and sort of zone back into work again, not wanting to slow things down during the rush. She picks up on it and says, I don't want to bother you. So good to see you, but we'll probably visit more often. And does a blow a kiss gesture. I blow a kiss back and tell her it was so good to see her. And for the rest of the shift, up until closing, I kept remembering this interaction and smiled every time, because it was just so pure and beautiful. It got me in the feels. I guess it really hit me because of the fact that it was 16 years ago, and I was just some kid that played with her baby daughter at the nanny's place. But the fact in itself that I was just a kind kid who was nice to her daughter and played with her, stayed with her for 16 whole years. That it made such an impact on her that 16 years later she walked to an employee who could or could not be that kid, just to ask him. For all she knew, she could have made a mistake and had a really awkward interaction. It's moments like this that make me really appreciate my job. I run into many kinds of people. I serve many kinds of people. And sometimes those people are a toddler I used to play with, all grown up now, and her mom. And I guess this showed me how important small actions can be. The kindness I showed her daughter, she remembered that for a long time. So damn, I honestly should take this experience with me and be much kinder in general, because it does make a difference. Yeah, the whole our life is about small actions, actually. And probably there is a bit of a karma that just returned respectively to this man a lot of years later. But anyway, the next story is titled I was able to cross something off my bucket list and I couldn't be happier. I have been interested in a couple of years now. I've been watching YouTube videos on them. I've pointed every single one out to my parents when we drive. They just fascinate me, and it has been my dream for a long time to be able to ride one. I'm in a flute group with a bunch of older people, and we meet every Wednesday. One of them rides a motorcycle to and from our meeting spot every single week. A couple of weeks ago, I got up to courage to ask him if he would let me ride on the back of his motorcycle sometime. He said yes. Today, our flute group ended early. I had brought a winter coat, we went out to the parking lot, and I was able to ride on his motorcycle as a passenger. I thought he was just going to take me on a couple of laps through the parking lot. I was completely wrong. He took me out on a couple of side streets, and then he took me onto a highway. We were gone for about 20 minutes, but it felt like we had only been riding for one. This was a couple of hours ago, and I have not been able to stop talking about it since. The person who took me on the motorcycle ride will probably never understand the full extent of how much it meant to me, but crossing off a lifelong dream makes me realize that anything is possible. Here I want to point out that there are absolutely no limits to make a dream come true, maybe except financial ones. And there is no such thing as I'm too old for all this crap, etc. All you need is desire to make it happen sometime, and believe me, it definitely will. Here is the next story by the user FairyCatMother, titled My friend's daughter accidentally said I love you when I dropped her off at school. I grew up with a lot of pseudo family. I did not have a present father, and my mom worked full-time. My family is pretty big, and all of our family friends attend get-togethers, holidays, birthday parties, etc. Most of my aunts are family friends I've known my whole life, who really are like family to me. With that being said, I know how important it is to have someone in your life who is family, when yours might not be the best. My wife has a friend with a teenage daughter and he works full-time. Her mom isn't in the picture, and the woman he had been dating, who was sort of a stepmom to her, isn't in the picture anymore either. As it sometimes is with dads, their relationship isn't the best either. She's a really good kid, and I really related to her fact that her family is a little unstable. So when our friend came to us asking if one of us could take her to school sometimes, I didn't hesitate in saying I could do it. It became our routine that once a week I'd pick her up, take her to get coffee and drop her off at school. We talk about her classes, her friends, etc. And then she started asking me for advice and about crushes and to dye her hair for the summer. She is figuring out her sexuality, and having a lesbian influence in her life I think has really made a difference, as her dad is low-key homophobic. We both refer to me as her aunt. I don't plan on having my own kids, so I joke that she is my pseudo-kid. The other day, I told her that maybe I can't be her mom, but I can be her fun aunt. She said maybe a little bit of both. We recently had a heart-to-heart where I talked about my own family and especially my dad. She confided in me about a lot of stuff and told me she didn't realize that she could talk to me about her feelings, about her family in this way. I told her I was always an ear for her. As a kid, talking to a neutral third party was a lifeline for me, and I wanted to extend her the same. I am friendly with her dad, but he was definitely more of my wife's friend. Anyways, I've been taking her to school for a few months now. It went from once a week to Tuesday-Friday. This morning, as I was dropping her off, she was grabbing her things and coffee, and I told her to have a good day at camp, and I'd see her tomorrow. She replied, I love you, bye. She got red-faced and said, oh wait, sorry. Well, actually yes, love you, bye. I had to keep it together, but I almost lost it. I don't plan on having kids, I don't know how well I'd do with the whole child rearing scene and passing on all my genetic disasters. But hey, I'll take my pseudo kid. Love you too, kiddo. And again we come back to the importance of having such a person next to you. Because here is what actually happens when you, no matter if you are a kid or an adult, find a person to talk to at first, and later you open yourself to them, asking for some life advice, confessing in some things, etc. And this outcome in a kid saying love you is absolutely logical, in my opinion. Here is another story by the user Pontarosa123456, titled "Don't know why I thought of this today." Like the header says, I don't know why I thought about this today. It made me smile, and I hope it does the same for you. Before I retired, I had a job that required a lot of traveling, along with going to different conventions. Some of the equipment I sold was rather heavy and sensitive. I had been using FedEx Freight on my well-boxed/crate machines, outgoing shipments, so I arranged shipping to Las Vegas for the convention. I rented a truck in a trailer and arranged to pick up my shipment at the FedEx docks to avoid some drayage fees. I made a very large mistake for my return shipment. I had no place to store my boxes for shipment back, or maybe I was just being lazy, but I threw away all the packaging. When I returned on a Saturday morning to drop my stuff off at the FedEx dock for return back to the warehouse, I had everything sitting on a couple pallets and tied down, with not much else to protect the shipment. There was one guy who was accepting my shipment, but said he can't go out like that. I put myself at his mercy, and boy, did he go out of his way to find cardboard, some stray boards, and some binding material to protect the return shipment. Got his name, we shook hands, and I didn't think much about it after that. About a month later, the rep from FedEx was doing her rounds, and I told her the story. She recommended I send an email to the head office saying what a good job he did and how much help he was. Next year rolls around, same convention, same deal. I get my rental truck and trailer and show up at the FedEx docks. I see the guy from FedEx and he comes running at me and calls me by name. I'm a little confused how he would remember me. He tells me he couldn't forget me for what I did. Seems when I sent that email, it made its way up the chain, and he was singled out as the sole winner for an award for employees who go above and beyond their duties. First prize was an all-expense-paid weekend, flights, hotel, the famous one with the ducks who parade around, food and everything else included. He let me know that he never had a honeymoon, and him and his wife had been married for 5 years. He had tears in his eyes as he thanked me for giving him and his wife honeymoons they never had. I had no idea that email would affect him so much. Needless to say, I had a friend in Vegas for years. Thanks for letting me share. You see, ladies and gentlemen, another example of how such a small, at the first sight, but extremely kind thing as sending an email appreciating the employee's effort can make such a tremendous difference and change somebody's life. And another example of the importance of kindness in our lives, by the way. And another intriguing title. Went from Reddit detective to girlfriend in 14 days, and I'm still not sure how. Of a story posted by the user lowphilosopher2751. So, how do I begin this? Couple of weeks ago I saw a post on local sub. I read it within few minutes of it being posted and I thought to myself, do I know this guy in real life? I stalked his profile and saw a post made a month ago and details on it confirmed 99% that this is the guy I know. Being the impatient and super curious me, I had to confirm 100%. And so I decided to message him on WhatsApp. I was like, hey, I know this is random, but is this you by any chance? And sent the link to the post. As any normal person would be, he was absolutely gobsmacked. I had become the stalker. Background: I have met him a couple of times through mutual friends at hangouts, but never really hung out one-on-one or even spoke much to each other. Also, we share the same birthday. We start texting and 2 days later I am somehow out drinking with his friends on late Friday night. I am a homebody and am still surprised I accepted the late night invitation to meet some strangers. Not sure if it was the drinks or his friend playing Win Woman, I started noticing him a little differently. I held his hands, we went bar hopping, and then I kissed him. I don't know who I am at this point. Of course he kissed me back, and we ended up spending the night together. Next day, we have a slow day. I make him breakfast and he did the sweetest thing. He took my plate and his plate to the sink and not only washed them, but also my dishes from previous night that I left to soak overnight. I would never have done that. I fell for him at that very instant. Now, he is already making plans for the next meetup. We watch F1 and he suggested we watch the race together that weekend. Well, one thing led to another, and we started seeing each other every single day and spending nights together. I've been emotionally ready for a long-term relationship, and he said he's on the same page too. So, we decided to explore this and see how it goes. He literally ticks almost all the boxes I wanted in my man. He's so sweet, thoughtful, caring, a little funny, and I love how we are absolutely goofy with each other. All this happened in a matter of 2 weeks. We are definitely going in bullet train speed levels, which is a little scary, but way more exciting. It's like my life's changed completely since that Friday night, and I've never been so happy. We officially became in a relationship yesterday, and he's lying next to me as I'm typing this. I love this guy, and I want this to work so bad. P.S. He did not ask me to post this. Maybe you've noticed, ladies and gentlemen, that my voice sounded like I was smiling here and there. And indeed, I literally couldn't stop doing that, because such relationship stories warm my heart very much in general. I've been happily married for 4 years myself, and this one is a gem in my opinion. A very determined woman being herself found out that the trait of being investigative is more than common among them. And a guy who not only didn't get frightened, but got attracted to her almost instantly. But the fact that it was enough to wash the dishes, so the woman immediately fell for the man, literally dropped my jaw on the floor, since it has always been a basic setting for me. So, my sentimental nature enjoyed this story. Write down in the comments if you did it in the same way as me. But here is another story by the user HeyPigPigPiggy. I taught a kid how to make balloon animals and he made my day. I used to work at a takeout restaurant and a couple came in with their son one day. He was side-eyeing these balloons I had and asked what are they for. He was being a typical teenager who was too cool for anything until I offered to teach him how to make them. As they waited for their food, I taught him how to make a dog because they're simple. He had so much fun and tried so hard not to smile the whole time because it would have killed his angsty teen vibe, haha. Before they left, I ordered him some balloons and the air pump I used. His mom tried to pay me for it, but I said no way, because I have hundreds of balloons and more pumps at home. He scooped them up and finally smiled. On their way out, still grinning, he said, "You are beautiful, by the way." A week later, he came back with his friends and said, "This is the girl I told you about." And they collectively agreed I was beautiful and that I'm just straight up like so cool. I never saw them again because I moved, but those kids really brightened my day the couple times I saw them. Really good kids who were kind and polite. And our next story is titled "I lied to my sister about her birthday present" by the user formermorning119. You might ask, why is this story wholesome? But the OP had predicted this question in your heads, so the start of the story is: yes, I know what the title looks like, but it's good, I swear. Context: I have a twin sister and it is insanely difficult to sneakily get her a present. Anyway, her birthday is tomorrow, and I said to her a couple of weeks ago I would buy her a Lego set that she wanted, the Aston Martin Speed Champion set, but I knew she wanted something else. So instead, I decided to buy her the Lightning McQueen Speed Champion Lego set, as she loves Lightning McQueen, and has ranted to me about how cool the set looks and probably wouldn't get it, as it is a new set and it would be difficult to get. By the way, it wasn't difficult to get. I also made her a Lady Whistledown column from Bridgerton about her birthday and her favorite characters, Kate and Anthony, scandals, as she quotes that they are her Roman Empire. I am thinking of reading it out to her on her birthday, so it's like she is receiving it from inside the Bridgerton world itself. So yeah, I lied to my sister, but I think it will be a good outcome, and I just wanted to tell someone as I'm feeling so proud of myself for thinking of this. Update. Just gave it to her, and as soon as I said dearest gentle readers, she started screaming, and then after I finished she cried. I then gave her my gift, the Lightning McQueen Lego set, and she started screaming "Ka-chow!" I think she liked it. I honestly agree with the OP. I am 100% sure she liked it. Anyway, our next one is called Husband Gave Me the Win. My husband and I have been married for 15 years and have an awesome 12-year-old daughter. They are close, but at this age she tends to gravitate more towards me because I am mom. One of her two gerbils passed away last week, and my husband and I had discussed not getting a gerbil mate replacement yet because the remaining gerbil is quite old for a gerbil, and he had told our daughter that, which upset her understandably. Yesterday we privately discussed changing our minds because our gerbil seems really lonely and clingy to us, and so we reconsidered that maybe she isn't too old and would like another playmate. But we hadn't told our daughter yet, we had changed our minds. Last night I made a parenting snafu, and I'm a therapist and a big softie, so I was really upset about it after our daughter fell asleep. Basically, our daughter is super anxious and prone to embarrassment, and question I asked made her super visibly embarrassed and shut down, and she went to sleep that way. I didn't mean any harm, but I was kicking myself a bit. So I told my husband after she went to bed, and he was reassuring and really sweet. But then he said okay in the morning. Tell her I was really against the gerbil, but you talked me into it, and so we will go this weekend. I just thought it was so sweet and considerate that he would give me the street cred, as they say. Any of you that have preteen kids know how precious those points can be as a parent. It's a small thing, but I just felt like 15 years in, this man still will think of new and creative ways to show me love. And another thing that is important in a relationship, in my opinion, is not minding to play like for the partner's team if it makes them happier. You know, my most important discovery of my long-term relationship, marriage included, is that if you love each other, you feel your partner's pain or happiness in the same or at least very similar way as them. And if you see that your partner is happy, you feel this happiness yourself respectively. So it becomes actually not a very big deal to back down on something, especially something that is not a very big deal for you, but you know that it will definitely make your partner happier. And you can only imagine how many useless arguments this can prevent. Anyway, the next one is friends helping friends. My daughter, 10 years old, came home one day upset. She said that one of her school friends had a birthday over the weekend and her parents forgot. When they remembered, they got her a small gift from the dollar store. My daughter then went on to tell me about how the girl's home life wasn't good and her parents act like teenagers and are constantly fighting. She wanted to do something for her friend, so she begged me to help her get a gift, and she was going to make her some bracelets. Daughter loves to make candy bracelets and accessories. I couldn't say no after hearing about her home life, so we went to a GameStop and got her a little keychain plushie of some anime scene that my daughter said she would like. Then we went and got a gift bag and a card, and my daughter put it all together when we got home. She brought it to school the next day and said her friend was very happy and grateful. Feels good to see my kid show some compassion. She said a lot of her classmates have hard home lives, and this friend wasn't the worst of them and appreciates her home life a lot more when compared to them. Anyway, the next story is brought by the user Riley Hire. The reason why my wife and I run across every crosswalk. We, both women if that matters, were house sitting for my bosses 1 year in their really cute walkable neighborhood. We liked going for walks to the downtown area of this neighborhood, which was only a few blocks away but across a highway. For some reason, the first day that we crossed the highway, we decided to run across. I suppose because we didn't know how long we had to cross and it was several lanes wide. For the rest of that trip, every time we crossed the highway, we would hold hands and run and end up laughing our asses off. It just made us feel free to run uninhibited like that. Lots of times, there would be other people just walking across near us. We probably looked like crazy people running past them. By this point, we knew that it wasn't necessary to run across the crosswalk, but it just seemed like more fun to do it this way. So now, every time we need to use a button to cross a crosswalk, we'll look at each other, knowingly grab each other's hands, and run across laughing and squealing. I like having some little rituals that are kind of secret between the two of us. It just makes life more fun. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, any healthy relationship is about having such small rituals as they really strengthen the bond between two partners. You can believe me or not. And we move on to the next story titled, "My neighbor keeps giving me gifts to show how much she appreciates the gifts I give her," posted by the user Unctuous Slime. Wholesome because, of course. How can this situation, each neighbor wanting to let the other know how much we appreciate each other, be anything other than wholesome? I'm struggling a bit. I love my neighbor. We live in a small group of units and she's been here as long as I have. We've never been especially close because she's older and retired, and I work away a lot, but we've always had a please water my plants type situation and always got on so well chatting when we met. She's my favorite out of the immediate neighbors. About 18 months ago, she was diagnosed with some sort of cancer. It came on suddenly and she went from fully well to not so much. At the time, I volunteered my services, although she never took me up on it. I used to cook meals and leave them for her. I think she's had a relapse. There was an ambulance when I was away and she was in hospital for 10 days. I made a whole box of food, sandwiches that could be eaten fresh or toasted, soup, fruit, bread and milk. Tonight there was a bag outside my back door, my containers and a bottle of wine. I really don't want her to think she has to repay me every time. I've told her in the past how much I love cooking and how happy I am to help my neighbors out. But then again, I would feel awkward about accepting help from anyone. I have decided to rename the wine the Bottle of Friendship, and I'm returning it tonight with cookies. And the title of the next one is "Co-workers got me a birthday cake," written by the user RaySense911. I, 18 female, am currently working my first job. There is a woman in my office, let's call her M, who is always really sweet to everyone. She always organizes cakes and celebrations for everyone, and she is generally just lovely to be around. We haven't known each other for long, but she always asks me how I am and calls me my angel all the time. When I walked into the office yesterday, I was immediately met with early birthday wishes from lots of people there, a giant cake, I cannot emphasize enough, this cake was huge, and chocolate. And of course it was Em and another coworker who had organized it. My 19th birthday is this weekend, and it is the first birthday I will be spending away from my now estranged abusive mother. Although she had a ton of issues, one thing she would always do for me was make me homemade cakes. It's been an incredibly sore spot for me, and part of me has been dreading it. Em doesn't know about any of this. I have only known Em for a few months. Em is simply a mother as well, and she is always kind to me and she gives warm hugs. And yet, getting me that cake literally made my entire weekend. I thanked her several times and smiled, and then I went to the bathroom and almost burst into tears. The cake has been delicious. I have shared it with my younger sister, and I had some for breakfast this morning. It was such a simple yet thoughtful scene, and it is probably one of the kindest things I've had someone I'm not close to do for me. When you have such a complicated childhood, it's absolutely alright not to expect kindness from people around, since you're always prepared for something negative to happen. And of course, when such a kind thing happens to such a person, it surprises them very much and moves at the same time. Since my childhood was also not very bright, mostly because of financial struggles, luckily my relationship with my mother has always been adequate, I felt similar things as the OP some time ago. For example, when my future wife, when we only started dating, made me an unexpected present, it was a belt, which I really needed at that moment, I almost cried, believe it or not. So you can understand how little you need to make such a person moved and grateful. And to me, this story was very relatable. And our last one for today, the title is Teens with Mental Health Struggles Get a PS5 Controller so they can play together in the hostel. Posted by the user bra02954958. I am living in a youth hostel right now with a bunch of other teens, and things can get pretty heavy here sometimes. There is a lot of downtime, and everyone is dealing with their own stuff, so finding something that actually brings people together isn't always easy. We had a PlayStation and one controller, so we would take turns playing Mortal Kombat 11, passing it around and trying to make it work. It was fun, but it never really felt like we were playing together, more like watching whoever had the controller at the time. A few days ago, someone donated to us a second controller. It sounds like such a small thing, but it completely changed everything. Now we can actually sit next to each other and play at the same time. People gather around, there is shouting, laughing, terrible button mashing, fake confidence, and everyone thinking they are about to win until they get destroyed. Even the quieter people started joining in. For a little while, it doesn't feel like a hostel, it just feels like a group of friends hanging out. I don't think the person who donated it realizes how much of a difference that one extra controller made, but it really did. Have a good day, everyone. And yet another example of a small thing for someone, but an immense one for somebody else. And yet another proof of how much difference it can actually make. Anyway, the next story was published by the user OrbicLP and titled It's Not Much, but it always makes my day. Alright, so this isn't the start of a love story, so sorry for all those who would like that. But the story starts like this. When I was at school, there was this girl who always seemed to dislike me. We didn't have any rivalry or anything, I just probably wasn't likable to her, not that surprising, since I was really weird at times as a child. Sometime after graduating school, I remember some sort of interaction, where, at the end of it, she told me something like, "You are not as bad as I thought you would be." And that was pretty much the last word we ever spoke. Last year, I started working in a bookstore, not far from where I grew up, and I think a month ago this girl came walking in. We didn't talk much, but I could eventually help her find the book she wanted. It wasn't the first time that someone from there came to the store, but all of them, even friends from then, never returned after finding out I work there. No one but my best friend, who pops in from time to time, and this girl who used to hate me, but now she comes by regularly, we even exchange a bit of small talk every time. I know it's not much, but it gives me peace to know that I was able to redeem myself to someone who didn't want anything to do with me. Thought it was worth to be shared here. You know, ladies and gentlemen, what really hit me while reading the story was how much the OP actually cared about that moment from the past, even though it happened so long ago, and how much they care about what other people think of them in general. But anyway, I'm sure we can only be glad for the OP and their relief about this redemption. The title of the next story is I seriously won the lottery with my friends and I can't stop smiling about it, published by the user Cruella Fall. I don't even know how to put this into words properly, but I just love my friends so much. Like, to the point where it randomly hits me and I get emotional in the middle of doing something totally normal. Sometimes I'll look at my phone after we've been joking around and just smile at the screen like an idiot. I walk over to the grocery store, still giggling over something one of them said hours ago. I guess it's knowing someone out there genuinely cares how your day went. It's being seen even on the bad days. And sometimes I get this little lump in my throat because, wow, I really lucked out in this life. I've told my friends I love them every day, but I just feel so overwhelmed with emotions right now, I want to post about it and share this warmth. So yeah, if you have friends like this, hug them tight. If you are still finding your people, I promise they are out there. And when you do find them, cherish them with everything you've got. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, if you agree, but to me the OP seems like a person who has finally found true friendship recently. Because it really reminds me what I felt when I started hanging out with the people I found myself comfortable with pretty frequently, especially considering the fact that before that moment, I was 14 or 15 at that time or so, I had literally no friends whatsoever. And that Gen, which is still alive, 15 years later by the way, literally boosted my confidence and let me find more friends later during my student times who I'm still in touch with. And in conclusion to my thought, I will repeat one of the OP's final thoughts. If you still haven't found your people, they are out there for sure. And if you have already found them, you can also tell your friend or your friends how much you appreciate them. It doesn't take much time, but be sure it will make their day anyway. Our next story was published by the user Craze Sheets. Its title is I am incredibly grateful for my aunt. Without her, I honestly think I might not still be alive. This is an appreciation post, sorry if it's a bit long. My mother abandoned me when I was very young, so I don't know her. My father was abusive and seemed to hate me for reasons I never understood. About 20 years ago, he completely cut off contact with me. I can't reach him, and I don't even know if he is still alive. The only family member who raised me was my grandmother, but she has also passed away. I have severe mental illness. For a long time, I tried very hard to pretend everything was normal and push myself through periods where I was functioning well enough. But over the past few years, my condition became much worse again. My illness relapsed severely. I became legally recognized as disabled, and the resources in my country are limited. Due to some ridiculous bureaucratic rules, I don't even qualify for financial assistance. My job has been unstable for years because of my symptoms, and I fell into poverty and isolation. I only became closer with my aunt after I became an adult. Over the past few years, we have become much more closer. She is the only family I have left. We live together now. At first, I was too ashamed to let her know how bad my condition really was, because I am supposed to be an independent adult. I am almost 40. But eventually, things became too severe to hide. She saw me unable to get out of bed because of psychiatric symptoms. I became unemployed. She saw me hallucinating and unable to hold normal conversations. At one point, I couldn't even bathe myself. But she doesn't give up on me or kick me out. Honestly, it's humiliating to admit this. There were times I would lie there, crying, because I couldn't even stand up long enough to shower. My aunt would actually help lift me up, walk me slowly to the bathroom step by step, wash my body for me herself, and even dry my hair afterward. She is poor too, yet she still took on more of the rent. She listens to me when I need to talk. When social workers came to visit me, she sat with me the whole time. She has never complained. She accompanies me to medical appointments, and through every treatment she has always been there. Not once has she made me go through it alone. Last year, I had a severe psychotic episode and posted some very alarming things on social media. I said I was going to kill certain people. I would never actually do that, but understandably it frightened people. Because I believed a deceased serial killer's spirit was telling me to. Someone saw the posts and called the police. It was a huge mess. My aunt was my only emergency contact. When the police called her, one of her friends had been treating her to a seafood dinner. She is not financially well off, so getting to eat something nice like that was rare for her. But the moment she got the call, she immediately left the meal behind. Later, she joked that after receiving the call, the delicious scallops in front of her instantly stopped looking appetizing. All she wanted was to rush home to me. She never blamed me. She told the story almost like it was just an anecdote. When she came home that night, I was still talking about the serial killer and I was hallucinating. I remember she didn't scold me at all. She simply came over, held me, and told me not to be afraid, because she was here with me. Then she asked me why I had let things get this bad without telling her sooner. Afterward, she accompanied me to the police station in the middle of the night to give a statement. She stayed with me through the entire process, never leaving my side once, until everything was resolved. Looking back now, I honestly think that without her there, I would have fallen deeper into fear and become even more consumed by my hallucinations. Recently, I've finally been able to slowly start showering by myself again, and I haven't had hallucinations for quite a while now. I can even write something in English, not my native language, somewhat coherently like this post. Today, when my aunt saw me showering on my own, she still stayed outside the bathroom talking to me the whole time, even though she was exhausted after work. When I finally finished, she praised me and cut fruit for me to eat. I often feel ashamed of myself, but she never stops encouraging me. Everyone knows how to do something as basic as taking a shower. To other people, it probably sounds ridiculous that an adult would be praised just for managing to bathe. But for me, it has genuinely been something very difficult. And my aunt knows that. She has a son of her own, but she has never treated me any differently from her own child. When speaking to others, she even often just introduces me as her daughter. Without my aunt, I truly believe I would have ended my life long ago. I am deeply grateful for her, and I hope I continue getting better, return to stable work, and become someone who can take care of her. I told her this, and she is very happy. In such situations, and not only in these by the way, all you need to somewhat stabilize your inner self is somebody next to you, treating, encouraging, and not judging you. And most importantly, having faith in you that is constantly expressed and reminded. I would even add faith and love. Therefore, I am 100% sure that the OP will get better very soon, since they already have this necessary person there for them. Anyway, the next story is titled I Learned to Love My Life Again. And the story is quite long, so ladies and gentlemen, get ready for the journey. I, 24 female, have struggled with my mental health since I was a teenager. That includes autism I didn't know I had until I was an adult, when I had already lived a life of thinking I was just wrong, and weird and not like others. The diagnosis didn't fix these internal problems, and the social anxiety and depression didn't really budge. But since about a year ago, I've become happy again, and I wanted to talk about why. Firstly, I was kind of literally adopted by extroverts. See, I went to university. In the UK, college comes first, so for the years I was in college before that, I didn't know anyone and never made any friends because I realized none of my friends from school even bothered with me if I stopped being the one trying to do everything and always initiate things. It really hurt, so I was determined to only focus on grades, and I did. For 2 years I did everything alone, and the only friends I had were maybe 1 or 2 people in my classes who mostly just asked about the work. In university, I was going to do the same thing. Then there was James. James I actually knew since primary school. We weren't friends, but more that we were aware of each other. First day of university, I walk in nervously and don't even notice the man I sit next to is him until he goes, "Hello?" I look up, clearly surprised, and actually felt relief I knew him. He became my best friend after that. But it was just a return to a sort of social life. It didn't make me love life again immediately. And I had a lot of setbacks after graduation when it became clear our job market had dried up. I am also an anxious homebird, so moving for work was just too terrifying for me. Skip to long after I graduate. I am depressed, borderline agoraphobic and anxious and haven't gotten work for years. I feel useless, even with the support of my new friends. Hits a breaking point when I broke down about it to my mother. She had no clue it was this bad because I bottled things up, and honestly, my family never pressured me. They knew things were tough and they loved me, so I was never strong-armed into needing to find a job or being told I was being kicked out. They would never do that. I said I needed help because it was just getting painful to live feeling like a burden. How do I function if I can't talk to people when that's how you do everything? I got therapy. It turns out my trauma came through in repressed memories. I won't share the details of them, but it was the opposite to how many experienced trauma growing up. All the worst events of my life took place during school, rather than at home. I nearly almost died a lot as a baby and then as a kid. Hospitals terrify me because of these things, and most of my friendships have never been healthy or really equal. The more I remembered, the more I also remembered good things though. My childhood felt less blurry and innocuous. Not entirely good, but not all dull either. My anxieties about being a burden to my family began to fade even if it took a very long time. Being honest and open actually helped things get fixed. My therapist was amazing. She had experience with people with autism and helped me understand myself even more when I never really was able to before. I was also overwhelmed because my family dog had just passed away, and he was essentially my number one and my heart as a kid. It took me ages to consider getting another pet. I got a cat, he's a tuxedo, and I fell in love when I got him. My parents supported me and I wanted to actually do something again. Jobs in my city have been impossible because I don't have experience, but I wanted to be productive, so I began online school again for something more obtainable, and I've almost completed my first year. I changed my diet. Having low self-esteem because I'm overweight and stopped taking care of myself had compounded everything. What really made me love life again was last month, because things went wrong and I didn't fall apart. My grandfather ended up in the hospital the same night I fell down the stairs and sprained my ankle very badly. They found an infection that had gotten into his heart and were treating him with antibiotics. When I could finally visit, I had one of those boots on my leg. The only thing my grandfather worried about was me, even though he was the one that almost died. Even if my granddad was confused, he would ask about me. Whenever my granddad was confused, it wasn't because he was experiencing any typical old age issues, because he was very aware that he is confused while it was happening. But it was funny to hear that he thought he could box 2 security guards he saw on the ward. He was a boxer when he was in his 20s. I asked him if that's what he was doing since treatments left him black and blue all over. One night I visited my gran there. It came out that I was the only one who really bothered with my grandparents, besides my actual parents. I have 4 cousins, all boys, and now young men, who they basically raised because their parents didn't bother to, and now haven't visited them in years. I didn't really realize how much it would have hurt them. My grandparents were grateful for me. They planned on ensuring I got their house, my own childhood home, where I had lived with them and my mother most of my life, when they passed. It's not that I never thought they loved me so much, but sometimes our perceptions of ourselves are the problem, because we really are loved more than we think sometimes. My grandfather is now home, alive and well. Not sure about well, he has smoked since he was 12, and I think stopping now would kill him. I am sticking to my studies and plan on personally asking my lecturers about programs to do with the jobs the university can help with, when I come close to graduating with my new degree in the future. I've started losing weight, I'm weirdly so social that younger me wouldn't believe it, and I'm just not miserable anymore. I have good and bad days, but I'm still working through my problems too. I came out to my friends, who are all straight men I play D&D with, and they're still my best friends. I'm meeting with someone from school next week who wanted to reconnect. I'm nervous, but not the way I used to be. Excited nervous, I hope it goes well. And there is nothing anymore that makes me not want to live my life. This story is basically the case when therapy came in at the most suitable moment and turned out to be so handy that it literally rebooted the OP's life and made her launch the number of changes to herself. And the fact that the granddad's illness didn't break her shows actually the same thing. So ladies and gentlemen who experience different mental health issues, consider therapy if you have this opportunity, because there is actually nothing embarrassing in it, and it can be the best decision of your life once made. Anyway, moving on to the next story, titled "I had a lovely wholesome encounter with this random girl in college", written by the user Space Rain Game. One day back in college, I was standing in line at the deli in one of the campus dining halls. Then, suddenly, this drop-dead beautiful girl came up to stand next to me in line. And for some reason, she stood super close to me. Anyway, my sub was getting made by the deli person, and they were putting too many onions on it, so I made some jokes/remarks under my breath about how they were messing it up. Unbeknownst to me, this gorgeous girl managed to hear me. She turned to me with this big smile and kept laughing at all my remarks. And oh my god, she had the most beautiful smile/laugh I had ever seen. I'll never forget it, especially with how up close I saw it. We just looked at each other, our faces inches apart, and laughed the whole time while I continued cracking jokes. It was almost like we knew each other, even though we had never met before. Anyway, I got my sub and left. I never saw that girl again, or even got her name, but I'm glad we at least got to share that nice moment. She seemed super kind and was absolutely stunning. I thought she was the most beautiful girl on our entire campus of 40,000 people. I mean, her gorgeous brown hair, her amazing eyes, when she smiled and laughed. They were to die for. I swear, her smile lit up the whole dining hall, which was quite large. And I can't begin to tell you how cute her laugh sounded. That encounter was over 10 years ago, and I still think about it from time to time. It was just one of those small moments from college I'll never forget. I hope she is doing well in life out there somewhere. This story just sounds cute at the first sight, but in my opinion it literally screams about desperation. According to it, the OP literally had the ground to come closer to that girl and ask her out. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, she would say yes, definitely. Of course, if she was single. Because not for no reason there is a saying that if a person laughs at your jokes, it means this is your person. And the fact that the OP remembers this occasion clearly, when exactly it took place, tells us that he deeply regrets not giving it a shot. So, a very unfortunate story to me. But I'm sure, ladies and gentlemen, that there will be people among you who will think that this story was definitely wholesome. And it's absolutely alright. So the next one is named I Felt Like a Teenager Again by the user Lefi. I'm 25 and I haven't ridden a bike in over 10 years. I recently started looking for second-hand bikes and went to pick up one at a godforsaken location 2 miles uphill from the nearest train station. My partner went there with me, on foot, since neither of us drive. I was beaming because cycling used to be one of my favorite things, and the only reason I hadn't gotten one before was cost. On the way back, we were starving, it was late, so we stopped at a shopping mall to get some dinner quickly. They didn't let us in with a bike, my partner stayed outside, I went upstairs and we ate fast food at the parking lot while the warm sun set over us and my new bike. Wearing the same casual clothes we had worn at 16 years old and feeling just like two teenagers having a hangout. I am at a point in life while my closest friends are achieving their main goals, like having children and buying a house or a car. I am still a student, finishing my master's degree in STEM, but working part-time to support myself. A new bike is kind of a luxury to me, and I was so happy to be able to make that decision. There are moments that remind me that we are all just grown-up teenagers, and that the kid in us that finds these moments fun hasn't died. I don't remember the last time I had eaten fast food, sitting in the parking lot of a mall, but it was something I used to do with my high school friends. It was nice to be brought back just for an hour or two. This is actually a fact. All of us are just children deep inside. And by the way, one of the worst existing things in the world that literally destroys us from the inside is comparison, especially with our peers. The main focus should always be on your own life path, and if you understand that a new bike is something you really, or even desperately, want, or like in case with the OP even need, you go for it without much overthinking. But anyway, while reading this story, I definitely felt that student times vibe, and I also had this bit of warm nostalgia as well. And our next story is titled That Specific Feeling of Comfort When You Visit Your Parents and Realize They Still Keep Your Favorite Snack Stocked in Their Pantry. I went over to my parents' house this weekend for a quick visit, and when I opened the kitchen cabinet to look for a glass of water, I saw a brand new box of Welsh fruit snacks, the exact specific brand I used to obsess over when I was 10 years old. I haven't bought them or even asked for them in well over a decade, but my mom told me she noticed them on sale at the grocery store and grabbed a box just on the off chance I might want some when I dropped by. It's such a tiny mundane thing, but it completely caught me off guard and made me smile. It made me realize that no matter how old, busy or independent you get in your adult life, stepping into your parents' house will always have those quiet little reminders that you are being looked after. It's a really sweet feeling knowing that to them you are always going to be their kid. I'm sure everybody who is an adult living not with parents has such a scene which is always there when they drop by at their parents' place. So this story is 100% relatable. Our next story is My mom was being very suspicious. This happened a few months ago, but the memory still puts a smile on my face. I was sat at home doing some schoolwork. My mom came into my room and asked me if I had any plans for the rest of the day. I said no, just schoolwork. My mom left without saying anything else, but she had a look on her face. So I was anxiously waiting all afternoon. I had a feeling it had something to do with my best friend, but I didn't want to get my hopes. She doesn't get that look unless something legitimately super exciting was happening. And I narrowed it down to one friend, since that's the only one I knew had her number, unless we count the fact that I am technically friends with my brother's Sunday school teacher and his wife. But it's highly unlikely they would call her up on a random Tuesday to make plans with me, especially since they have 2 kids under 2. I didn't want to get my hopes too high, because I have a problem of building things up in my mind and the reality not being as good. Then, that night, my best friend came over to surprise me. It turns out my mom had run into her earlier, and she was surprising me by taking me to see Iron Lawn. So yeah, anxious vibes all afternoon, then a great afternoon. My mom and best friend plotted without me knowing, and it turned out great. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, overthinking is a burden, especially for teenagers. I can 100% confirm this, because I've always been such a person, and only adulthood let me be a little bit less anxious, about everything. But when I recall what it did to me when being in my late teens, I really want to forget about it immediately. And our final one for today is named Disney Duckling Saving. I just had to share this especially because I think the particular combo of extreme heat and mind-boggling cost can bring out the worst of humanity at Walt Disney World, but I had the sweetest moment of humanity in line for the Jungle Cruise yesterday morning. There was a little duckling frantically scurrying around the line, close to the end of the line where we were near the water, and making a little call to its mom. I could see its mom by the loading boats, but there was people and decorations, barrels, etc., blocking this duckling's view. But the mom was frantically pacing, making the same call back. When the duckling came near us again, me and 6 or so strangers blocked it off and shooed it to the barrels, so it had no choice but to go near the water, which it did. Everyone was fully invested at this point and cheered loudly. When I started the ride, I saw a mom and 5 ducklings happily swimming nearby. And ladies and gentlemen, this cute story is probably the best one to finalize our today's video. So I wish everyone to have a great day, and I see you in the next one.